What's up YouTube? It's about time for the grand return of Deep. With the seasonal tournament around the corner, I think people are shifting their attention more and more towards tournament viable decks. Deep has actually become more and more popular in a lot of the grassroots tournaments and also found quite a bit of success. Now, you'd usually play this deck in a ban Poppy Z strategy. Whenever you can take out that deck, which is one of the worst matchups, all of a sudden Deep is looking pretty good into most of the meta and to most of the rest of the stuff that people are bringing. Stuff like Plunder, stuff like Draven Scion, some control-ish decks like Darkness and so on. Deep will usually be a good choice to slap them and get a couple of victories. Now, I was curious enough to see if this deck also worked well on ladder, and surprise, surprise, went on quite the heater, and did finally manage to hit Masters with it. I know this was like the slowest climb I've ever had in my life to Masters, but I was also experimenting around with a lot of fun decks. Nonetheless, this version of Deep felt pretty strong and pretty consistent and felt like it has a lot of game, even in the matchups that are rather rough. So let's take a look at this version, explain why all the cards are in there, maybe also for the players who are not too familiar with Deep yet. So we have a bunch of cards that toss, just to thin our deck to get to 15 or less cards as quickly as possible. Drag Dredgers is there to toss, Thorny Toad, a blocker that tosses, Deadbloom Wanderer, defensive lifesteal unit that tosses. So we have that synergy in the early game package. Then we have the whole Sea Monster package. We play Sea Scarab as an optional early game unit that tosses, but that also grows quite large pretty quickly once it gets those +3/+3 buffs from the Deep effect. And we play 2 Abyssal Eyes and 3 Devourers of the Depths. Devourers is the bread and butter of Deep, basically. This card is incredibly good. Abyssal Eye is debatable in the current meta. You could even argue about cutting it completely. I have seen some lists do that, so that's a thing of personal preference. Furthermore, for the Sea Monster package, of course, Lure of the Depths. It used to be a meme card and a forgotten card for a long time, but since the addition of Sea Scarab, this card has gained so much strength and value for a lot of decks. Now, looking at... oh yeah, one more Sea Monster as attack against control. Shipwreck Hoarder, quite important. Has multiple uses as well. One is if you do run out of cards, you can use this to reshuffle treasures. And of course, the treasures themselves are incredible tempos. And of course, the treasures themselves are representing incredible tempo and will often be able to close out a game against a control deck. Now we also run the champions, Nautilus. Of course, also the key card in Deep once you level him up. Sea Monster allies cost 4 less, especially if you pair that with 1 or 2 Lure of the Depths, which you hopefully already played earlier on. An Abyssal Eye might easily cost 0, Devourer might cost 0 or 1 mana. So on turn 7 or 8, you can often play Nautilus and multiple Sea Monsters next to him, just representing an incredibly huge power spike. Now it gets interesting. Let's take a look at the spells and the utility cards. We have Salvage as a way of not running out of steam, as well as tossing and thinning our deck. Jettison, of course, as a 3-of. Those are usually no-brainers. You want to include some number of those. We play 2 Bone Skewers as optional removal. Sometimes it's there to save our own unit. For example, also to replay a Devourer of the Depths, to save a Maokai or Nautilus, to get extra lifesteal off of Deadbloom Wanderer. Tons of uses for this. And we play some amount of anti-aggro and removal. This current version by Estathio plays 2 Vile Feasts, and we play 1 Withering Mist, which hits a surprisingly large amount of the meta. Especially against Plunder, it feels really good. A lot of the units have 2 HP. Apart from that, Jawl Hunters used to be a staple in this deck for a long time. But this is a bit of a meta call. So if you face a lot of ping decks, a lot of Plunder, a lot of TFGP and so on, the stat line is just not worth running this card. But if you should face a lot of Poppy Z, for example, so for the ladder it might still make a lot of sense to go up to 3 Jawl Hunters. In those matchups, the card is literally insane. However, for the purpose of banning Poppy, not necessarily a 3-of. And the last couple of flex spots are quite interesting. One, Stalking Shadows. It's always been an addition that was in and out of Deep. The idea here is that you can optionally copy, hopefully, Devourer of the Depths. just giving you access to more of those obliterate effects. But of course, often enough, you'll also need cheap chump blockers, and you can find stuff like Drag Dredger, Sea Scarab, maybe Deadbloom Wanderer for some extra lifesteal. We play a one-off Riptide, which in many cases, of course, is just going to be a low-budget concussive palm, but it's a great flexible card to have in this deck nonetheless. It's very good against Sion, it's very good against the champions, Gangplank and Sejuani, against Lee Sin, and of course, even against control, it's not bad, because once you do have Nautilus on board, if you just save this card in the hand, it's a removal. It's kind of almost like a vengeance for 4 mana. So in the current meta, this card definitely feels surprisingly good. And we have a one-off Atrocity. On one hand, of course, it's something our opponent always has to think about, especially in open deck lists, or even in ladder if they see you toss it. They won't know if you play another one, and they're going to be very cautious to not let their Nexus HP drop too low and maybe block more than they should. But of course, it is also just an incredibly good finisher. As soon as we get 7 chip damage in at some point in the game, Nautilus always represents the Atrocity finish threat. And it's not that hard to get that 7 chip damage in if you consider we have big elusives like Abyssal Eye in this. And the last card I didn't really touch up on, Maokai, of course, super flexible, super synergistic in this. Doesn't really have to be a 3-off because he's mostly good against control decks. Against aggro decks, it's just 2 mana inefficient. Against midrange, it can be good because the Zaplings that Maokai spawns can be very good for removal, for board control, or for blocking. But the main reason, of course, why he's in there is once he levels up, he obliterates most of our opponent's deck, including all of the champions. And if we should not manage to close out the game through the board, because our opponent has too much removal, then Maokai represents a great alternative win condition. Also keep in mind that Zaplings and Jol Hunters can be very good to pull elusive blockers aside or fearsome blockers so that Nautilus or Abyssal Eye can get hits in. Now at first sight, Deep might look like a pretty easy and straightforward deck to play, but what I see a lot of people struggle with or not even realize is how flexible you need to be in with the win conditions sometimes, especially if you play against a control deck. You always need to reassess if you want to go for the board win condition with Nautilus and sea monsters, if you want to go for treasures, or of course the Maokai win condition blowing their deck up. And it can get very hard to keep track of all of your resources and adapt your game plan on what the game state currently looks like, what your hand looks like, and what the best way, most likely way for you will be to win the game. So there's lots to learn if you decide to play this deck. And one last thing I want to mention, I mentioned it earlier on, this version is made for a ban poppy strategy. If you want to play this on the ladder, you would probably want to cut down a bit of the anti-control cards. Maybe stuff like Shipwreck Hoarder, maybe a bit lower on Abyssal Eye, maybe Stalking Shadows, and add more cards like Vile Feast, Jol Hunters, maybe a second Withering Mist. But without further ado, I want to share some gameplay examples with you, share how I hit Masters with you guys, and also show that you can definitely beat most meta decks and even sometimes the one that look like they're very doomed and very unfavored at first sight.
Is it the mustache? Who knows?
Oh my goodness. Frickin' Poppy right away. Alright, we can do this though. We run 2 Toads, we run some amount of Vile Feast. This is a very good opening hand. I'm not sure if I even keep Scarab here. I already have a turn 2 and... yeah, Scarab is a bit too weak in the early game. We don't win by going deep, but by outgrinding our opponent. Water beats fire. We're not playing Pokemon, unfortunately. Ah, no Dredger. Rip. We're okay here though. Deadbloom into Maokai and then we have Viles for the next swing. I'm not sure if it's into Maokai though. We might have to Vile Feast this because of Poppy next round. Not the Bone Skewer. Ah, yeah, Poppy might mess us up. Feels like an open pass to me. And now we know we have to double vial. We good talking about Arcane? No. The title says Arcane spoiler-free zone. Every block is an up trade opposed to my opponent swinging back at me. So the attack makes a lot of sense. I probably keep one blocker in the back and let this one go through. Feels like it's gonna block a bigger attack later than 2 damage from this. Okay, Maokai plus Jol are gonna have to carry here.
The Isles will bloom again.
No, I'll try to get around to watching Arcane this upcoming week. I just had so much stuff piled up that I was super busy this whole weekend as well. But next week I should finally have time to watch Arcane and also to play some Path of Champions. Ah, please don't poke me. Don't poke me, bruh. I need to pay attention. I almost missed it again. The card I left in this deck is Tides of Terror. Yeah, but it doesn't really make sense in the current meta, does it?
I just know the hero's around here somewhere.
It's not too bad. Got some blockers lined up. Wait. 2 away from deep. What am I doing? Get out of my face, Poppy. Get that weak stuff out of here, Poppy Ziggs, Yordle Burn. It's not June anymore. Play something original. What? What is Ezreal Caitlyn? Sounds like it would be a cool concept, but I have no idea what I'm running into. Tri-beam deck. Oh yeah, it could definitely be a tri-beam deck. But it's not gonna play any puff caps, right? Probably plays limited amounts of traps. Alan played that one against Swim yesterday. Margin Bay posted it a few days ago. Ooh. Hey, maybe that's a list to look into. Although it plays the broken region. Wait, who just said it doesn't play puff caps? I feel betrayed. Well, as long as we're taking him out right now, we're perfectly fine. Hey, Puff Caps is probably the only way this deck threatens us. Is this a tournament? Not anymore. I'm out of the tournament, unfortunately. This is very addictive. Just picking the board. My goodness. Someone definitely needs to stop me from buying this board. Okay. Mildly awkward hand. Bone Skewer is not good here though. Like, I really want to draw a card that is not Sea Scarab. Vesselai is much better. Mucho mejor. I mean, early Hoarder is also kind of hot, to be honest. This is risky against... Well, I would have a Bone Skewer, though, against Thermal Beam or... Get excited, and the upside if my opponent doesn't have removal for this is enormous. So I think I like just trying my luck here. Get out of my face. Does this deck run Lost Lost Riches? Lost Riches is a very bad card in the current meta. It's generally bad, but right now it's super bad. And trust me, I'd love for that card to be good, but it's not. Time to wreck some ships, I suppose. Who said this deck doesn't run Puff Caps? Come on, Chad. Triple Jettison. Oh, thank you so much for the dono, Saraline. Much appreciated. Just at the right time to witness the triple Jettison. Now the question is, do we triple jet and then devour, or do we surprise our opponent by playing Abyssal Eye? Bait them to use a bunch of removal? Jet Burst Pass? But it always looks so suspicious to play Jettison Burst Pass. Let's go. Let's go, the debates. The mind games are spot on. Like, our opponent can take out one of the two, but... we're still getting the job done. Alright, shutting down the draw. But I think it's already too late. We just go now, Devour next turn. That's such an insane power turn, actually. Turn 8, we basically get 27-27 in stats and take out 2 units on our opponent's side. Just deep things. Mini-morph? I mean, yes, it's an answer. But if our opponent uses 6 mana to take care of our 7 mana card, we're really also not far behind. You what, mate? You what? Trying to beat me with my own weapons? Get out of my face. There's a chance this isn't lethal, like if they have removal for the shipwreck. There isn't really much of a development punish. Second try beam, I can go right back at my opponent with the Devourer. So I might as well expend my mana here to make the attack as good as possible. Or like mini morph would have been a problem as well. GG. Have I watched Arcane? Not yet. Not yet. I will later this week. So Jol Hunters is the only way we have a chance in this matchup, right? Withering Mist is nice. Not going for a 7-2 spot this season. Right now, I'm not really planning it. Oh.
3 months already. 3 months ago I saw you smash the Battle of the Regions, yep.
Cheekster, thank you so much. Saw you smash the Battle of the Regions. Oh yeah, the Invitational. That was so good. Sorry, I was distracted. I had to take a screenshot of that first. Pass might prevent my opponent from playing Poppy because of Jaw. But the way they've been playing so far, it seemed pretty reckless.
The order rewards its faithful.
Liking how Withering Mist turned out to be a decent card after all. It's so meta-dependent. Incredibly meta-dependent. Okay, this isn't good. I can try. But I mean, I lose if I don't try, right? And even if... no, if my opponent has an HP buff, I also don't get the block. YOLO. Well... I guess we got outplayed.
They cannot hide. You bad!
So I can toss what? 6? Play Toad. Ooh. Maybe it's not over yet. Very optimistic, maybe. I don't know if the swing is good. Like, in a tournament, I would never do this because having the attack token keeps on bluffing Jaw Hunters. Like I said, this opponent doesn't seem to particularly care about that kind of stuff. I think it's a good way to soft pass and chip some damage in.
Who does not know the name Laurent?
Okay, no rally this turn. Yeah, we're going for the tossing approach here. As soon as Thorny Toad dies,
Silent as death.
we shall be deep. Deep versus Poppy Z is an auto lose. I feel like we have a chance here. Like, if they have no champions and, let's say, a maximum 1 rally, I feel like we have a chance. Could have killed Poppy with Bone Skewer. Wait, I might have missed it. I might have been an autopilot.
Hardly fair.
I was really focused on going deep here with this block. And I mean, I honestly think... Isn't this even better, though? Because my opponent can't really rally. As soon as they rally, I have Bone Skewer.
Austerity, please. Thanks, please. Got your back.
Okay, that got dicey. Thank goodness. I could have gone way wrong.
They cannot hide.
Okay. Oh, just not Devourer, right? Dead Bloom looks too greedy. I could go Dead Bloom Devourer. The more I think about it, the more I think Dead Bloom is better here. Like, it's a bit safer, and we don't really need the extra value, right?
Around here somewhere.
Now the question is, do I even kill Poppy? Or do I just shoot out the Shadow Assassin? Or do I just swing with these first? See how our opponent reacts. Maybe bait out a rally. I think I like taking out Shadow Assassin. Like, now that we have board control, Poppy doesn't do anything anymore. She'll only do something if our opponent has a lot of elusives, or if our opponent levels her and she impacts.
I'll stop you. Sure you want to do this? Wouldn't be a
Easy game.
some danger.
3 Poppies and a Zed are not enough to bring down deep.
Ready, Hammer?
GG. Only needed our opponent to misplay like 8 times. Sivir Akshan. Should be a rough matchup, but a doable one. Probably like 55 to 60 for them. Just watch the Echo Jinx deck. Nice video. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that was actually... The deck is insane. Also, shout out to... I think What Am I was the player who played it first.
Don't want to die? Don't do terrible things.
Yeah, chat, if you don't know what we're talking about, YouTube's channel has been popping off lately. I'll just leave the link in the chat. Some really cool decks there. The latest one was Echo Jinx Predict Aggro. Got some insane games in on that deck. And it was also just... Like, it's so much fun to play. It's crazy. I think we wait with the lure, right? Remember Sunny playing it first? Yeah, I also noticed Sunny play it, but then when I checked on Mobalytics, I think what am I like first posted the decks like 10 days earlier. So I'm not sure who like had the idea first or popularized it. It doesn't really matter in the end, but it's just a cool deck. Vagabond post-combat. That makes my attack really awkward. I can jet burst past just for mana efficiency. Don't really want to play Maokai into something like a buff plus single combat or Cataclysm. I watch your YouTube when I'm trying to get to sleep. I'm not sure if that is a compliment. Do you think lore is going to be more popular? Oh, I don't know how to answer that. Have I seen Scattersphere and Mina? Yeah, it was on my bucket list on decks that I still need to play. Devourer and Akshan right now. I probably tank a single combat though, that's a bit of the issue. Then the single combat doesn't hit Maokai. So ideally my opponent uses Sharp Side here. Perhaps under single combat. Yikes. I think it's a mistake to put it on Akshan and not on the Bruiser though.
Talk is worthless. We are what we do.
What do I do? Abyssal Eye maybe? Or do I just Giga risk it? Abyssal Eye. Pass, Salvage, Devour next turn, probably not good enough. I feel so doomed here no matter what I do. I think we'll risk it. The payoff is huge if I go Drag Dredges here and then next turn Devour and not have... Oh, Jesus. That's GG. Like, there's a tiny chance my opponent's hand is completely bricked, but... say there's almost no chance we win this. Maybe it's Shipwreck there. Maybe I'm very desperate for treasures. I don't get that pass at all.
I know what I'm worth.
Likelihood of my opponent holding Concerted is super high. High rolling a treasure as a way out, definitely, yeah.
It's a living.
I don't know, with that pass, I feel like my opponent actually gave me a chance to get back into this game. Might be better to fish for Nautilus though. Like next turn Nautilus can also flip the board and that's a more reliable way than treasures. Maokai's almost there. I need to watch out a bit for Golden Aegis. Nice. I think end round would have been much better for my opponent. Okay, now if we find Nautilus, we have a chance. Come on. There aren't that many cards left. There's one non-Nautilus left, I think. Actually, two.
trials will be cleansed.
Like, if we could have played Nautilus here, we actually have a chance. Our opponent uses an action to play, Wait, they might not have a rally.
Told you to stay back. I go where the trouble is. It's never too far.
And so, life springs anew. Grow tall, grow strong.
So they just reshuffled the Sivir and we're taking it out of the deck immediately. Now it gets really hard for my opponent to go for the Fount of Power. Like, they can still do it though. They'll try to end the game on the next attack. But at least next attack we're guaranteed to finally find the frickin' Nautilus.
You're covered.
How many sharp sides? Okay. Definitely not attacking with the Abyssal Eye. I mean, drawing doesn't even help here. We always just draw a Nautilus. Oh, I think my opponent has to take out Maokai. Maokai has 2 blockers. This is just 1. Is there one non-Nautilus? No. We didn't draw a Naut yet. And 3 cards left.
Cool iPad.
You like it? I mean, shut up and fight.
Give them room to spread their leaves.
Yeah, Absolver kills us though.
Danger pays.
Didn't pre-commit. Let's go. That's a classic mistake. Chat, be better. Like, put lethal on the board if you really need it. Second Ricochet. Just can find another Devourer. Just can find double Abyssal Eye. No, that's worse. It's always lure here. So my opponent needs a rally plus strike effect. Or of course Ricochet. Let's go. I think it's treasure time.
Springs anew.
I should have maybe played Stalking Shadows first. I should have definitely played Stalking Shadows first, because all of them cost 0 anyway.
Dive deeper.
Let's go. Off to the casino. Shit. Shelly. That's actually not too bad. Oh. Wait, does Obliterate count as a slay? No. Okay, how about you give Nautilus Overwhelm? But we buff up Shelly and play her first, right? Let's see. Holy smokes, that was a good roll. Become a moonstone.
If it looks valuable, it probably is, eh?
Overwhelm. Overwhelm. Let's go. $13.30 to win them here, kind of, yeah. In a weird way it is. Okay, now it gets interesting. We're not decking out our opponent, which means we want to go for the win. I think we Riptide Sivir on top of the deck. Could also Riptide Akshan, so that if like Sivir... No, that doesn't work. I think I like Riptides. Maybe Devour the Dragon. Let's go! Easy comebacks.
The sea does not forget.
Oh, and we hit Masters off of that. That was a good game. A good game to hit Masters with.